About good and bad. Perhaps one of the most important issues and problems of the modern man who wants to walk the path of completion is to understand the difference and also the way these two opposing terms, good and evil, work. But things are not that easy. I am borrowing two terms from a teacher of esotericism, D. Semmelus, those of the creative factor and the corresponding destructive or otherwise transformative one. Whatever we call them, they are nothing more than the terms of order and disorder, or even those of organization and chaos. As words, however, they are more understandable since one factor, one force, creates while the other destroys, or rather transforms. Make no mistake, they are both necessary for creation. Nothing in creation is superfluous. The way these powers are used determines the degree of their necessity. On the material level, everything looks clear. Cosmic explosions will destroy something and bring forth something new. On the human level, they will bring about death, but all of its elements will be recycled into something else, usually transformed and then used by the creative agent into something new. I could ask, what are the elements of creation? But by now the answer should be known as the forces that make up material creation are universal matter, universal spirit, and universal soul. All three, united in a single body, an amalgam indelible and above all inseparable. I believe that this is definitive and a basic principle of creation. In the human, it is clear in his form, but the human has something more. It has an element of higher origin, a spark which draws its origin from the spiritual creation and which is perceived as a higher ego. I do not intend to analyze these two aspects of creation, since it is clearly a matter of a different level, and with the fundamental knowledge of interpreting many concepts. I will stick to the fact that these two factors, the creative and the destructive, or also referred to as transformative, or using simple terms as good and evil, refer to the events of the first creation, also known as material. Their confrontation takes place in the field that originally started and which caused the creation of the universal soul. Since the individual soul is a part of this soul, the human struggle takes place in his soul. The recognition, therefore, by the modern thinker of the terms of good and evil probably means more than simply recognizing them in his daily life. The knowledge of good and evil entails responsibilities and, unfortunately, risks. The man who is aware of everything that surrounds him, who knows the universal and individual becoming, takes seriously the concepts of good and evil, trying to understand them in their general expression. But knowing the struggle will take place in the human soul, knowing what he will face, with whatever help he may find, he must begin that struggle. One thing is certain, the reaction, the factor of destruction which is trapped in the human soul, will react. It will use its own weapons to win the fight, and its weapons have one and only purpose: to use the chaotic factor in order to suspend the activity of the other factor, that of creation. So let's be clearer and more detailed. The destructive or transformative factor has no influence at all on the spirit of a man. That is why it infiltrates in him through the body and soul, forcing him to deviate from his normal and rational life. Thus it creates passions and material defects in his mental and physical life, respectively. It is not some poor devil who provokes such a thing. It is simply the opposing forces that bring the storm, a storm that is unable to pass the higher ego, but can find its way to the mental state of man, which is part of his form as a being of creation. What it can achieve is to affect the areas where the subconscious and unconscious activities of the ego are manifested. It implants in man material defects and mental passions. I think the outcome is easy to understand. Man loses control of his subconscious state, and doubt passes from his soul to his mind. In this case, the material harm he can suffer is minor. But there is the moral evil, which has the power to affect our spirit, our ego, and corrupt us with doubt. The destructive factor thus neutralizes man and keeps him captive to those that come from the material creation. He who wants to walk the path of completion must struggle with this condition. He must direct his being by the dictates of his ego, and by harmonizing his hypostases, he limits evil. Of course, in order to achieve this victory, wishes are not enough. He must cultivate his moral personality through the broader concept of love, which will help him gain the concept of justice. Let's not forget that in the global economy, morality is unknown, because the transformative factor ignores it. Man, however, has another purpose. The understanding of this dipole reveals to him that what is happening is not a simple confrontation, and becomes the cause of creation itself. The science of duality is creation itself. It is the understanding of the absolute and the relative. Let's take a moment to see more of the details we have mentioned so far, and not refer any more to the generalities that are so abundantly born in our minds. Because this subject is not a simple reference, it offers the keys needed for its operation. On the physical level, good and evil fight. In the astral, love and hate, and in the mental, human level, truth and delusion. Man, by definition, is destined to complete the fight against evil, an evil that the divinity has trapped in his very soul. It is important to note that the struggle and effort are not secured through the intervention of any malevolent entities. The law of struggle and the necessity of evolution were created by the simple fact of the infiltration of spirit into matter, and the resistance of matter to this infiltration. This is how the need for follow-up effort, which applies to every development, was created. For anyone interested in this aspect, there is a video on YouTube that somewhat comically answers many questions. Evil is not a truth, nor something that has an existence in itself. Evil is a shortage. For humans, evil is the difference between the good that manifests and the evil that, according to his nature, is capable of manifesting. Evil, therefore, has no existence of its own and is not hidden anywhere, ready to attack us. Rather, it is inherent in our state of being, and we manifest it in relation to our weaknesses. Evil does not exist outside of human or any other beings. When nature and beings have evolved enough to manifest all the good they are capable of manifesting, then evil will have no manifestation, and beings will no longer know it. This is also the reason, when referring to the level of creation, we do not refer to the concept of evil, but to the concept of transformation or destruction. In order to achieve the above, the one who wishes from the heart to walk the path of completion must deepen the knowledge of both himself and always be open-eyed to the events of the world that surround him. And this is the way